When I started today, I said, one, I wanted to be a resource for you. Two, I emphasized I had been in your shoes. Three, I mentioned I really do value what you do out there in the world trying to pass on the faith to the next generation. I asked you if I could be listened to during these sessions, and I would respect your break times and get you out on time. So the goal is to get you out on time now. And then I also asked you to keep a list of notes because, of course, this is meant to be shared. It is meant to be used, and it is not just a requirement. I hope I'm really leaving you with some things you can actually learn and apply. Because I know I've been to, presentations before or conferences, and I walk away and feel like, did I really learn anything? Was that really worth my time? So I've always took it very seriously that whenever I'm teaching something, there better be some additional examples, some additional facts, something extra. Because if you're just walking away feeling like I've heard the same thing and I could put it on repeat and again, it's really a disservice to you, and it's really not valuable for your time. So the last thing, though, I'd like to talk about today is my programs and how the work that I do at catechismclass.com, which I've been involved with now since 2007, could hopefully impact your lives and impact the lives of others in the diocese, and also be a resource for you. As I said, I wanted to be a resource today. As I said before, that link tree I made, I'm going to keep that active for a little while. I use that link for a variety of different talks that I give. Like I just gave a talk actually about a month ago on Our Lady Mediatrix of All Graces, and I had links for people there, and they used them. So don't just save the link and like it's good forever. Go there and actually, if you want to do the directory, save that, check out the different links there. I have links to my work at catechismclass.com there. I also have a link at the bottom to some of our sample lessons. So we have sample content available for children, for adults. We offer a wide variety of things. You can go there, check out the samples. And as I said before, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or connect via email using those links at the top. So please use those within the next week or so. That's when this link is going to stay active before I'll need to repurpose it. So one of those links near the bottom of the page above the samples is going to be a link to our catechist training course, because I really feel it's essential that we train the next generation of catechists and teachers well. Because you're going to be faced with very hard questions, and you don't always know the answer, and you want to, obviously continue to learn more about the faith yourself and to share that, and that's why I do what I do. When it comes to our Lord's own example, I'm reminded that he first of all taught the 12 apostles. And then they went out and taught people. And they went out and taught people. And in many respects, it was meant to be started in group setting, and it disseminated from there. He didn't just go to massive halls and necessarily teach everybody everything. He certainly taught from the mount. He taught on the plain. But he taught some things only to the apostles so that way they could understand it, and then they could share it on with others. So I think about that with our work today. We don't necessarily want to teach absolutely everything the same way to everybody. It matters what our audience is. And we want to make sure, though, when it comes to teachers and to catechists, to DREs, to priests or to deacons, that they're taught in a greater extent. Because it's almost like you're joining the 12 apostles. Because you should know the most. Because you might not have questions on absolutely everything, but you might have questions on a lot, and at different times all throughout your life. So you should be empowered to know where to get the answer if you don't know the answer. So again, these are meant to be resources for you. Because we have a challenge. More than ever before, parishes, families, and even students are faced with the greatest number of obstacles, legitimate or not, which is preventing us from further passing on the faith to a next generation. And we must take a stand for the future of the Church and continue to pass down to the Catholic faith to those who come after us. Thankfully, there's still a way for us to overcome these challenges, but I've heard about this now ever since I've been doing this work. I've been working a number of different areas in the Catholic space, writing apologetics for close to 20 years. And I often hear, we don't have a lot of teachers, we don't have volunteers, we don't have parents committed, We don't have students who are well-formed in their faith. Students don't care. There's too much difficulty with logistics getting to these classes. I don't have time for making lesson plans. I can't handle grading. I'm busy enough. I have so many responsibilities, and ensuring students live out their faith at home, I have no responsibility for that. I can't be involved there. How do I provide students with the resources? How do I handle special needs students with disabilities? How do I teach the faith to this person who's totally different from this background, who grew up in a family which is already well catechized and this one isn't? How do I become all things to all people? These are the challenges, and there's many other ones that you're going to face if you haven't already, but I'm sure many of you, if you worked at a parish, you'll know that a lot of these are things that you're going to encounter. So what, I'd like to go over very briefly here today is just some of the trends in religious education based on data through the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and other organizations. Understand the seriousness of those trends, express the fundamental reasons why religious education must improve, as I hopefully have demonstrated throughout today, and identify my resources at catechismclass.com as a unique solution I want to make available to you so that way you can use them, continue to enrich yourself and those around you, because if, like the apostles, I can help make sure that you're well catechized in all these different areas, then you can go on and pass out these details to more people. You don't necessarily have to just buy programs for children. You can just take courses yourselves to further your own education. But above all, it is meant to be a flexible solution for everybody. But before we get to the solution, you have to understand the problem. And what are some of those key findings? Per the USCCB, we see the Catholic children's education market continuing to decrease in primary school as well as secondary school over time. And this is only going back to 1965, but you can see clear downward trajectories in enrollment amongst our children. You can also see, as I talked about before, the number of adult baptisms declining precipitously over time. A lot of people like to gravitate to positive news, and sometimes you see positive news and you really latch on. You're like, I don't have a problem. Like one of those things I saw this year was apparently in France, there was a large amount of adult baptisms in France this year. Well, that's good, and we should be happy about that. But we don't want to just look at one particular data point. If we zoom out and you're like, what is the trajectory? Well, it happens to be better than the past few years, but maybe it's still vastly downhill. And that's what whole data can tell a different story. Same thing with the number of children's baptisms have been in decline in the last 2 decades. We have so many people who are growing up who are no longer baptized, whose salvation is at stake, who will go throughout their whole life. And I have people contact me all the time saying, I've been asked to be a godparent and I've never been baptized or I've never been confirmed. How do I get that diploma so I can finish? And they think it's just a piece of paper. And they don't realize it's a whole sacramental, ontological change in your whole soul that's going to change your whole way of life. If you're meant to be a godparent, it is an awesome responsibility, and I prepare more than 1,000 people every month for that honor, of which I take it very seriously because I want you to understand whether you're preparing for a baptism as a godparent or as a parent, you know that it is an awesome and wonderful thing, but it is also a responsibility. And that's the case with the reception of all of our sacraments, for marriage preparation classes that I offer, or even natural family planning classes that I offer. When is it used? How is it used? I've contracted with a number of different experts in this field to make a lot of this available, because we need to make it available. One of my favorite courses is the one where I just help Catholics relearn the faith, or who feel like they weren't properly catechized, or help bring them into the church. And as we look at this graphic that I'll go to now, we'll see this is from a study in 2013 where it's apparently only 46% of American Catholics actually believe in the real presence, the actual real body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. So in a year when we're talking about Eucharistic revival, how can you have Eucharistic revival if you're only going to do a procession to Indianapolis and you're not going to change the way of life at your parish? And you're not going to emphasize, I really want to teach so much about that is our Lord. He's actually there. People talk about they wish God was around them. God doesn't hear them. Why is he at? He's literally right there. The exact same God right there. So if we live by example and understood that and taught people more about visits to the Blessed Sacrament, praying before the Blessed Sacrament, the rosary before the Blessed Sacrament, how much more impactful that would be. How much more impactful it would be if people saw us receiving Holy Communion reverently and worshiping the sacrament truly as God himself. How much more we can do by example as well as by teaching with clarity. There's many Catholics I know of who just wish that they were taught this as children. And as I talked about in fasting before, something I mentioned as these Ember days occur throughout the year. These are periods of time consecrated to God when the seasons change. And these were always days of fasting and absence for a long period of time. And there was a friend of mine who he said, he's like, that can't be right. He's like, that can't be a thing. It can't exist. Because he said, I went to Catholic school for 12 years and nobody taught me it. And there's no way I could get through Catholic school for 12 years and not have learned everything. And that's not just one person, that's many people. So don't just feel like somebody else is going to mention this, somebody else is going to do that. It's not here, I don't need to mention that. Because if you get the inspiration to mention something, that might be the Holy Ghost saying, well, I should be mentioning this. I should be encouraging this devotion, this work of mercy, mentioning this topic, because you are called to truly do that. But, as I shared pieces of data here, even though you can see the trajectory lines, data can be confusing. So let's tell it in a different way. What if I told you only 20% of students that graduate from a certain university actually get employed there? What was that, my marketing slogan? Come here, you have a 20% chance of getting a job afterwards. I don't think I would have a job long. Well, that's exactly, though, what's happening with the Catholic Church in the United States. Only 20% of Catholics apply that faith to their lives and live it out by the age of 23. The other 80% drop out. And we have to prevent them from doing that. So we're fighting an uphill battle. We're fighting for the salvation of souls. Just as King David fought against Goliath, we thought, well, this is too monumental of a task. What role can I play? What role can I actually play in the universal church or even in my own parish or my diocese? I'm literally one person. Sometimes you only need one person, because David was only one person. And Goliath was still knocked down and his head was still decapitated by one person. Yet there's so many souls that are lost today because not everybody wants to be that one person. But if you think about it in your lives, what were the best teachers you've had? It's usually one or two maybe stand out to you, most people have, and because they really maybe went out on the limb, they did something a little bit different, they really made an example to you, they listened to you and they made time for you, they taught things in a different way. That's who you want to be. Don't you want to be the best teacher people remember? Don't you want to do the best job possible, especially when it's teaching religion for our Lord? As I said, nearly 80% of cradle Catholics are no longer Catholic by the age of 23. Only 30% of Americans who were raised Catholic are still practicing the faith, and 10% of adults in America could check a box and say they identify as ex-Catholics. The failure of religious education in the 21st century cannot be more evident. To say otherwise is disingenuous. It is an assault and affront to numbers. To clearly fact-based things, if you just looked at it and you're like, yeah, there is no way things are getting better. Things have gotten worse. And we need to do whatever we can to make sure that it gets better. Again, Fulton J. Sheen said, there's not 100 people in the United States who hate the Catholic Church, but there's millions who hate what they wrongly perceive the Church to be. And many times they wrongly perceive that because they were not taught the faith accurately, they were not taught the faith well, they were taught by somebody who just viewed it as a job and who didn't actually live it out. Sometimes the teacher has to influence the parents too. You make sure you bring your children to Mass, make sure that they're doing this, make sure they're saying the Rosary. You can't make the parent do certain things, but you can certainly do the effort. Because God does not always ask us to be successful, but He asks us to be faithful. And that was something Mother Teresa would say and do, saying she can only do what she can do. But she would still do that, and she would leave the rest to God. So what are we doing to stop this downward tide affecting the faith in our world today? That's something that I had taken very seriously. So in 2004, my organization was founded by a priest, Father James Zadalava, who was a really heroic priest who was from Altoona, Pennsylvania. He since passed away in 2019. And I joined up with him in 2006, 2007. And one of his original visions in '04 was, the internet's new, how do I use modern technology to reach more people? Because I have to be adaptable, I have to reach people where they're at, and I'm tired of all those challenges that I mentioned before, and he was facing them then. Nobody wants to go to religious education, people are busy, they got a soccer practice here, they got logistical things here. Wednesdays doesn't work for people, so I moved it to Friday, and that doesn't work, so what do I do? So I have to teach every day of the week, because not everybody can come every day. That's what he was facing. He said, no. The internet's brand new, and I'm going to use it in a way to transmit the same perennial Catholic faith to the next generation. And that was his mindset. And he worked with a great group of people who I'm privileged to know and still work with, including many homeschool mothers who approached it on how can we use the faith to teach homeschoolers, how can we teach the faith to reach adults where they're at online, and that was one of his original visions. And in 2007, I joined up with him to start writing content and helping him with editing. And since 2010, I took over the organization, of which I continue to grow around the country and around the world, presenting at parishes, throughout dioceses and conferences, and making people understand that there's great resources out there for you. Because you shouldn't have to feel like you're alone. You shouldn't feel like you don't have the answer or you don't know what to do, because everything should be available to you. We pride ourselves on being convenient, reaching people where they're at, being complete, not just doing superficial answers, but really going into depth, because depth is what wins over people and resonates with them, and also being cost effective, understanding that people have budgets and parishes have needs as well. How can we do so in the most cost effective manner to reach as many people as possible? Now, the church really saw over the pandemic the benefits of online education that I had been promoting for a number of years before. There was a study done by the U.S. Department of Labor in 2009, which is a meta-analysis. So if you don't know what a meta-analysis is, that's basically a study of studies, because I really only like to use meta-analyses, because one study can be really made to show anything. You know, if you're familiar with what causes cancer, you realize everything causes it and everything prevents it, depending on what the study is. But if you look at meta-analyses, you're like, well, it overwhelmingly shows that this is bad for you, this is good for you, versus one-off studies can be shown to show whatever really they want. Especially whoever's paying for the study will want to make sure that whoever's paying for it gets the results they want. So meta-analyses are what I really like to use. And the U.S. Department of Labor did one of those on the benefits of online learning for K-12 and post-secondary learning. And the study reported that students who took all or part of their classes online performed better on average than those taking the same course through traditional face-to-face instruction. That doesn't mean there's no benefit to face-to-face instruction. Of course there is. But for certain students, this might be the best instruction possible. Certainly for you, if you just want to continue to learn about the faith, doesn't mean you have to go to workshops all the time and that's all you use. There's certainly other great means available, many of which are online. YouTube and other courses. There's actually some really good content on there that I use and I have people use. But the same thing can be true for children too, that there is really a wealth of information out there. Children want to be part of something better, especially at a young age, but they also want to be challenged, to be connected to something bigger than them. And in many respects, this study found that the internet was a tool to make children and adults learning online. And that's one thing that we emphasize, that parents should be learning with their children. So when you have them go home and do an activity with their parents, I can't tell you the number of times parents have said, well, we learned something, we forgot about that, or we didn't quite know about that, or that really resonated with me. Because as I said, everybody has a responsibility to keep learning their faith, but when you're older and you're busy, how many adults who go to Mass even every Sunday are spending time studying religion frequently? And it's quite rare. So one way we can do so is family catechesis, really finding ways to bring the family in through activities, or finding ways to make sure that they are aware of the resources available to them in passing on the faith. So what are ways we can use to improve our parish's religious education, reach students or to parents? And that's one of the reasons that I do what I do, that I wanted to make sure that this was available to pass on the faith. As a third order Dominican myself, passing on the faith is part of my vocation. And I do that through, the work that we do. We offer 3 primary courses. We offer children's faith formation courses. So if you had just 2 students who wanted to maybe take a second grade class, you could literally buy each student just a copy. You get lifelong access, so it doesn't matter when second grade's over. If they want to use it, 5 years from now to refresh his memory. It's not like a book which will deteriorate. He can log in at any time. The parents can log in with them. Same thing with sacramental preparation. We work with a number of different parishes, dozens of which all the time, on all different sacraments. As I talked about, from godparent preparation to marriage to RCIA, confirmation, and everything else for children and adults. And lastly, adult faith formation. We have many different courses because we understand that it's a lifelong process. We have courses if you're very new to the Catholic faith and you're coming from a whole non-Christian background. Just what does it mean? What is a Trinity? If we build up from there. We have other ones that go over more details, the life of our Lord, or the Holy Mass, or the sacraments. We have other more advanced courses. If you're like, I already understand that well, we have a whole course on the 20 ecumenical councils before Vatican II that nobody really talks about or goes into detail, some of them. We have a whole course on that. We have a whole course on world history from a Catholic perspective, or a whole course on all of the apostles, so that way if you're talking about the apostles, you actually can share things on this. So that way there's resources for you. If you're like, I want to do a lesson on St. Andrew, well, that's the lesson on St. Andrew. I'll refresh myself there. I'll print out these resources and I can supplement my current curriculum if I want with this pertinent information for the liturgical year. So we have courses on Advent, Lent, for all the different saints and so many other things, because we want to make a wealth and library available at an affordable price for everybody. So whether that's sacramental preparation like confession, communion, confirmation, marriage, or adult faith formation like I said, or children's courses. We were the very first organization to ever make a program that was modeled after the USCCB's framework that they made in '08 on what should be in a high school religious education program. We took that framework and we were the first ones to roll that out because they think that framework was excellent. And we wanted to make it available to people online so you can use it and you can digest it and you didn't have to worry about timing or schedules or other problems. So we were the very first ones on that and we're very happy to have done so. In all of our work, something that I want to make sure you understand is that our programs are meant to make you both saints and scholars, because you have to learn the faith and then you have to live it out. That's why all of our lessons follow a 7-step format. You start with an introduction, then you go into your opening prayers, which for children we teach them prayers to memorize so that way you can listen to them and hear them. In English, we also have Latin prayers too, so you can listen along. Then we also have prayers for the lesson itself. We have scriptural passages on to step 3, because of course any true Catholic education should rely on the scriptures. So what does the scriptures say about this particular topic? For instance, our Lord's presentation in the temple. What do the scriptures say on that? And then the catechism. A wide variety of catechisms are used. I've talked about a wealth of catechisms today. We quote from many different ones in these different lessons. That way, because one definition might not appeal to you, we put a conglomerate of different ones here so that way you might be able to resonate in a different way and thus use that definition. And then step 5 is we kind of tie it all together. Father Zadalava wrote a number of those reflections, but we also draw on the writings of the saints. We also draw on a lot of other commentary as well to what does it mean to teach on this topic? What does this mean? What are liturgical implications of this? Step 6 is the activity. So the activity is going to importantly be, how do you live it out? I really like emphasizing spiritual and corporal works of mercy, or different prayers to say. Maybe it's research online, because we do want to make you a scholar. We do want to make sure children understand how to do basic internet research, how they can come up with things, how they can cite sources. But it might be more than that. It might be, for some children, we have a whole series of online resources so you can do online coloring. And then you can print out your drawing in different colors. So some children really enjoy that. So there's different ways that we try to reach people where they're at. For adults, some of those activities are going to be great videos to watch that if you wanted to listen along or learn from. They could be different activities too. So for instance, one of those activities I like is on our lesson on baptism. We remind people to say, you should know your baptism anniversary. If you don't know the anniversary of the day you were baptized, find it out and put it in your calendar so that way you can honor that day every year. You know, St. Louis IX once said that he thought more about the place where he was baptized than the place he was crowned king. So if you don't know the day you were baptized, that's the activity of that lesson. Find it out. And then if you don't, buy just simply a cheap little holy water font so you can have one at your house, so you can bless yourself with holy water. So that's our activity. So just to show you there's a wide variety of applications. And it's also things for you to take away to be like, well, I might, use this in the classroom. I might recommend this. I might use this as an activity myself. Because you shouldn't have to feel like you're always having to reinvent the wheel. You should feel like there's a wealth of information out there that has already been put together and is simply, at your disposal to find out. So, I am here to help partner with the faith, with you, so that way we can help raise the next generation of Catholics. We have a wide variety of courses. As I said in the link tree, the catechist training is going to be a little under $150, lifetime access. So that is something that I think may be one of the most applicable ones to people here, but there's a wealth of stuff there, so you can explore the library really for everything, for children's courses and for more. So before I wrap up, just a few additional things I'll add. So, and this PowerPoint too is available on our website, but it's not just me. We have a wide variety of great backers. We're very privileged to have Bishop Robert Vasa as our Episcopal advisor. He joined us when he was the Bishop of Baker. He's now the bishop in Santa Rosa, California, so north of San Francisco. And then we have a wide variety of other people who come from different backgrounds who wrote a number of courses for us, all from usually people who have been experienced teaching themselves. They were DREs, or they studied at seminaries, or they're subject matter experts on the topic. Those are who we rely on. Now, you can use our programs as some parishes do, especially smaller parishes. You're like, I just want to, I don't have the volunteer teachers. I just want to buy a copy of the class for everybody. And you can do that. We certainly have parishes do that. It's easy to sign everybody up. Everybody could be told, like, just complete X number of lessons per week. You can choose to complete it all online, or maybe we only have to meet once a month or every other week. Or I can stagger things. It just provides you the flexibility to reach people where they're at. So that is one parishes uses as the main curriculum. But in many respects, it simply uses a supplemental curriculum. Because you might have a textbook maybe perhaps you like, but you want to supplement it with resources for people to take online. For students to have, online courses that they can do too. There's a quiz at the end they take. We handle all the record keeping and all the grading. People don't have to worry about that. It's a matter of just signing them up and they're good to go. And you might want to have resources for yourself, whether it's liturgical year specific or otherwise, that you just want to have available. I have priests who take the course who find resources to use in homilies. And they go through that and they think, I should share this, I should share that. I have deacons do that as well. But so there's a wide variety of people who've really used it. But I can speak firsthand about the number of people who have told us over the years how impactful the courses have been. Whether it's for their children, for their families, for their own selves. We've been privileged to have a number of backers over the years, including Dr. Scott Hahn, who reviewed our course very early on. Carl Keating was a big supporter, is still. Just a number of different people who have reviewed our courses and recommended them. We have a whole course just on Mariology, on the Blessed Virgin Mary. And the executive director of the Central Association for the Miraculous Medal read that course, and he endorsed it, and that's one of his endorsements as well. So it's not just me saying it. Every time I make it available to priests and others, they usually walk away, as I know you heard at the beginning here, like, wow, there was actually a lot of depth to that. Children are learning a lot from it, parents are learning a lot from it. Doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been Catholic, you can learn a lot about the faith. And we've been honored to have a number of ecclesial supporters in the church over the years, whether it been Archbishop Chaput or Bishop Baker of Charleston at the time, or others, or even Pope Benedict XVI, who, when we told us what we were doing, wrote us and encouraged us in our efforts, saying that that was very much needed now in the church at this time. And same thing, too, with Cardinal Burke, who wrote us a letter of support as well. But that's everything that I have today. Again, I leave you with, hopefully you understand that there's resources out there. You do great work. I continue to encourage you. Pray for me, I pray for you, and if we can do anything to help you in your work, again, there's pamphlets. I have business cards you can take extra if you know other people who might be interested. I brought a lot. I do still have a couple of books for sale, but thanks so much for listening, everybody. Thank you for your attention today. Appreciate it.